Hey, Sean. I'm once again just hoping and putting some faith into the fact that this microphone is working and you can actually hear me. So if you get here, if you join the stream and you can hear me, let me know because I would love that. Tonight, I wanted to do a video sort of live and get, if there's any questions, get some feedback and some answers as to what information is important to you. But this conversation is about what are my favorite lights and why for video production. And I have owned a ton of different lights over the years, and I've bought a whole lot and I've sold quite a few, and I'm now in this spot where I've settled into the lights that I want and the lights that I'm using more frequently and more consistently. And so I wanted to walk you through my setup of what lights I'm using and things like that. So yeah, again, if you're just joining and you can hear me, please let me know, because the YouTube mobile app does nothing to tell me whether or not my audio is working, as much as I would love for it to do so. So let me know if this is just silence and a big problem. But we're going to walk through why I use the lights that I use and what lights I have used, what my priorities are for the lights that I choose, and then what actual lights fit those needs for me as best as I need them to do. So I'm going to turn these on. Come with me here in my studio I have two plugs, just two. And so I sort of have to choose what is plugged in and when. And so I'm going to plug in my Hudson Spyder Mosey. And you can hear me, it's a little fuzzy. Well, I'm going to do my best. This is maybe I can turn it down a little bit. Stand by as we do this. I have a button. Hoping that this is a little better. I've turned it down slightly. Probably with some very loud noises there in between. So my main light is the Hudson Spyder Mosey. This is a crazy expensive light, but I love it and it makes my job possible. And I'm going to get into why. But then my other lights, as I tool around here, let me turn on my other switch. I've got Quasar Rainbow Q25, Quasar Rainbow Q50, and brand new to the team, Quasar Double Rainbow, which is essentially two of those side by side. Oh, great. So I was also plugging some things in, so hopefully it's not so bad anymore. So to understand the kind of lights that I want and why I've chosen these lights, the most important thing to understand is what I'm using them for. And I'm a video producer that shoots a lot of documentary-based videos for nonprofits and organizations, but it's a lot of seated, lit interviews. And recently I've been getting more into product videos and trying to do that, but what I don't do is like overly moody cinematic stuff. And so as I have bought lights over the years, what my priority has become is twofold. One, I want the most beautiful light with as little work as possible. And two, I want portability. And I guess three is brightness and flexibility, and I don't know what four is. I don't have a four. Cost. What I mean by the first one of wanting a good light with as little work as possible, if you get if you get like an Aputure 120D, 300D, 600D, 1200D, or any HMI single source light, like these are the industry standard for, if you want a light, you buy this light. You get yourself an Aputure and a light dome. That's the light you need to be a professional. The problem with that is that in order for that light to be at all useful in an interview, you have to put it through a light dome. If you just shine that single source light, it's going to be the harshest, roughest shadows. The trade-off, though, is that you have a ton of flexibility. with these lights, you can bounce them through 4 layers of diffusion. They're bright enough where you can shape them in a way that you want to shape them, and you can choose that shape. You can have a long softbox to do product photos with. You can have a big round box. You can do a book light where you're bouncing it twice to get this super soft source of light onto your subject. But for me, 95% of what I light is seated interviews, and to have to build a light dome and attach it to the light every single time, or put up other stands to put multiple layers of diffusion, I hate that. It's a waste of time. It may sound dumb to say it like this, but to set one of those up and put the light dome on and all that stuff, it's like 3 minutes. 3 minutes to build it, unzip it, take good care of it, and then taking it down is another thing, and they don't pack well. Those light domes with the speed rings pack down into wide sleeves, and you can't pack them. Like you'll crush them and you'll bend them if you try to do anything with them to pack them in with other gear, other than like fully disassembling from the speed ring. So for me, I didn't like them. I used Aputure lights for a long time, and I had reliability issues with both of my lights, which from what I understand is not the normal case for a lot of people, but it was my case. So I was happy to say I'm done with these single source Aputure lights. And I started looking for other options, and David Pitt, a buddy of mine, was using Quasar tubes a whole lot. And he's shooting cinematic stuff a lot of times and using these for backgrounds. And I'd seen them used in other ways where they were key lights, like a Kino bank where you've got like 4 fluorescent bulbs, but instead of fluorescent bulbs, you've got these LED tubes. And then I bought this 4-foot Rainbow Q50, which is I think a 26 pixel RGB WW light. So it can be all of your bicolor, like from 2700 to 6500 white light, but it can also be any saturation and any hue in between, and you can adjust it all on the light itself. And it also runs for a long time off a battery. And then after I bought that, my buddy Dane bought a Q25, which is the 2-foot version. And so I had this 4-foot version, and he had 2 of these 2-foot versions. And oh, Dane, what's up, man? So once Dane got these 2-foot versions, I noticed that they went on sale, and I couldn't resist. I bought one as well. And very quickly, this 2-foot Quasar became my favorite light. And that's for going back to my priorities. Number one, it's really easy to get good soft light out of that. You can put it up in front of diffusion if you want to, but also as a fill light, they're really soft because it's already a wide source. I'm gonna sneeze and I'm sorry. Live videos, huh? We'll wait. And so for me, doing these interviews, being able to pull out a tube light and not have to build a light dome, not have to set up other stands for other diffusion, but being able to do a hair light like this over my shoulders with just one stand, that's fantastic for me. That's perfect. And then my second priority of portability, it's a tube light. They're built out of metal and like hard plastic for the lens on it. And so it's really easy to throw it into a bag. I'm not like the Aputure lights, and again, the light domes, like all that diffusion folds down in a way that's not really that durable, and it can get crushed thrown in the back of my pickup truck, or worse, trying to fly with one of these things. Like you've got to carry on that diffusion because it will just get destroyed if you check it or try to hide a hard case or something. It's just not an efficient way to get good light somewhere. So for me, these tubes, I fit them in this single case. And I'm getting to my less practical but most amazing light behind me in a moment. But here in this little case, with the exception of, again, this 4-foot Quasar doesn't fit anywhere. And after I saw Dane show up with his 2-foot versions, I was like, that's the way to go, these 2-foot versions. And so in this case, I can fit that 2-foot Quasar right here. I can fit my ballast and my power supply for the Hudson Spyder Mosey in these two. I can fit the entire Hudson Spyder. This whole thing folds up so that it can fit in this space right here. This is where it lives, and I can fit things inside it when it does. And then I've got batteries that I can power everything with, and I put all my cables here. So this case holds 3 lights. This is an entire 3-light kit here where I have an amazing key light and then 2 quasars that fit in here. I haven't gotten to this other one, but this Q25 fits in there. And then I just added this guy. This is the double rainbow. And so I think I said this at the very beginning, but this is essentially just double wide of the 2-foot quasar. So it's twice as bright, and you can control the pixels independently. So I could have part of it blue, part of it red, if I wanted to for whatever reason. So a handy light, and this, because it's, I don't know if you can see this, it's still the same width as this other tube. It fits down in this slot and stacks right on top of the other quasar tube. So for me, now I can fit 3 lights all in this one case that I can carry on if I need to, but I can definitely throw in my truck and not worry about it. And so that's what I'm talking about, where these lights are already soft, and this is the trade-off. I'm not doing cinematic stuff. I'm not shooting films. I'm not trying to make somebody's bedroom look like it's sunrise in the morning. I'm lighting interviews. I'm lighting people and trying to make it look good. And so I don't need that flexibility to say, well, I need a hard source light so that I can shine it through like what's going to make it look like blinds on the wall. And like, I'm not trying to put a single light outside and make it look like the sun coming through. And that's why my third priority is brightness. These quasar lights are not as bright as a Aperture 300D is, or even an Aperture 100D or 120D. And my beloved Hudson Spider is a beautiful, amazing light, but it's also not that bright. And I think it's on, what's it on here? This is on a 1/4 power, but I'm gonna give it full blast. You can see it's bright, but it's not blinding by any means. But for me, that's fine. And all the YouTube videos that you've seen down here, I shoot it with about 25%. But the number of times that I'm filming where I need to like balance the sun, like I know an Aperture 300D could do when I had that, when it worked. I could shoot outside and use natural key light or natural sunlight as the key, and then the 300D was bright enough that I could make that the fill. However, with that brightness, and I know they have bicolor ones now that are essentially half the power because they're making just half the power warm pixels, half the power cold pixels. But with that, like with a 300D, it's 300 at daylight color balance, and so you can't always balance against the sun anyway, even if you're bright enough, unless you're gonna gel it down and then you lose power anyway. So for me, if I'm gonna do something outside, and Dane, when you shot in Florida, I didn't go, but we rented, so I think 600Ds were what we got, 2 of those. But I made a video back in December about like the lessons that I've learned in the 13 years that I've been doing Boom Reactive. And one of them was have a good relationship with a rental house and with rental gear. And knowing that the gear that I own will get me through 95% of the jobs I shoot is great. And for the 5% of jobs that require us to shoot and balance against the sun, that make us light someone's bedroom to seem like sunrise, we'll just rent the lights for that. So my priorities are good light without needing a ton of diffusion and other stuff. And like my 300D, when I use that for interviews, I don't think I ever put that thing above 10% power. Like it was just too much. I never used it at full power. It was a waste of a light for most of what I do. So getting that gorgeous light, that soft light, if you buy those hard sources, the first thing you have to do is diffuse them. And that's a pain for me, and bringing extra diffusion for these things is annoying. So enter my pride and joy of my light collection, the Hudson Spider Mosey. Now I've made videos about this light and what it does, but what I wanted to talk about different tonight was how it meets my priorities and why it was worth adding another $4 grand of debt to the bottom line of Boom Reactive for the time being. Because it's an expensive light. But what it does for me and with my priorities, and again, cost was sort of my final priority. We were going for convenience to good light, portability, brightness, and then cost. So to good light, I'm amazed with this thing. And I did a bunch of this stuff in the demos before, but let me turn off the other lights in here so that you can get a feel for what this thing does. Turn that off. So this is the light coming out of the Hudson Spyder. It is just gorgeous and wraps all the way around, and it's doing this because it is a bounced source. So the LEDs are on the front of it, and they're just shining into this umbrella and bouncing off at a bunch of different angles and wrapping around. So it's this super, super soft light. Yes, Jay, I love this light too. That's why I went into debt for it. But what this does beyond that is that each of these arms bends. And so I had them spread out like a flat star, a big asterisk. But you can bend all these in and it makes a parabolic shape. And the light that comes out of it is now a little bit different in it. It's not as direct, but it bounces a little bit more and wraps a little bit better. And so this is just bouncing into a silver umbrella, but I can also bounce this off other color umbrellas, obviously. I can shoot it through a white diffusion umbrella that I have. And this is the most amazing part, stand by. I'm gonna give you the behind the scenes for a second here. This is my favorite thing about this light, that I can take it and struggle in a live stream to get this. Oh, you're gonna make a liar out of me. Okay, there we go. This is not what I was hoping would happen, but it's working slowly but surely. There we go. So I'm going to take off the umbrella completely and set it aside. And there's something I want to show you about the umbrella in a second, which goes to make my life even easier. But I'm going to lift this up a little bit. I'm going to tilt it downward like that and spin it around like this and turn it down a little bit. And when I do this, what we get is, favorite part of that light is that you're using it. Oh, all for you, Jay. So this light on my face right now is really wrapped. It's really soft. It doesn't feel like some crazy harsh source. And I'm going to turn it down just a little bit more. Like, this light is wonderful, but what people don't see behind the camera, and I guess my glasses are giving away a little bit right now, but this is just a bare LED. This is straight on my face and different than any like flat panel like an RE Sky or like the Roto lights or anything like that. Like those flat panels still have this like flat, like they'll put a shadow on you a little bit. But because these lights, as this thing is bent around, these lights are shining this way, these lights are shining that way, like it literally is wrapping light without being bounced. It makes it so convenient to where this light can give me soft light in a really tight space because I don't need to put this 3-foot light dome sticking off the front of it. I'm not bending stands and stuff like that to make it happen. Where if you're shooting in somebody's smaller office or conference room or something like that, it's just crazy convenient to have a light that doesn't require a ton of space behind it. You can see it's just plugged in, and granted this box on it, the ballast and the power supply are huge and heavy and bigger than the light itself. But like compared to an aperture fixture, all that stuff is built, or a bunch of it is built into the back of it. And again, this isn't as powerful, but it's so flexible. And for me, like being able to do, I shouldn't hit the mic, sorry about that. For me, being able to do all of my interviews with a light like this and to be able to use this for product videos is awesome. But that's a great question, Jay. This light it comes with a kit that includes like the power, everything like that, and like several umbrellas and soft boxes. Like you get it as a kit, and that kit runs about $3,800 to start. So you're essentially looking at $4,000 for a light, and I get that that's crazy. I understand that that's crazy, and I understand that it may not have been the smartest thing for me to have invested $4,000 in a single key light. But what it does for me is make me incredibly lean and flexible, and that's fantastic for almost all of what I shoot. And I hope that in the future that cost comes down. And they make a bigger one that has 8 legs that are twice as long, and that's called the redback, and this is the mosey, which I think are Australian slang for a redback is a spider, kind of like a black widow, and the mosey is a mosquito. So 8 legs, 6 legs. That's where they came up with that. But it's just a really, really flexible light. And with my priorities being the fewest number of steps to being able to have a good interview, like this is what makes me lean. This is what makes me, yeah, no, I agree with you. It's crazy. And if you can't expense it to a company and do that, you're about to pay for a cart. Yeah. I have a cart over there that was like $2,000, which I don't use nearly as much as I should. But yes, video gear is expensive, and I wish it weren't. But this is a fantastic thing. And if I think of getting a light that would do this, like getting an aperture and having it where I've got to set up diffusion everywhere I go, like I used to do, like it was just cumbersome and annoying, and it made the setup and the footprint bigger, and it took longer, and it got hotter, and it was less portable. And that's really the thing. The fact here, let me turn this light on, because I'll show you my favorite part of this light. When we're talking about portability, turn this off, unscrew this cable from the back. Hi, I'm over here. I'll be over in a moment. Okay. So this is the entire light, and it's got a little screw on the front, and that's where I can connect that thing that holds the umbrellas. And this is where I can, spread it out. All of these things move individually. You can also put this sort of backwards and bend them back this way and bounce it into an umbrella and get some really, really crazy soft light coming out of it. But when you're ready to move, these things all just fold up into a big bowl. And then inside this bowl, I can fit the accessories for it, like that umbrella mount and stuff like that. I just fit inside there, and then, well, I didn't take the baby pin off the back of it, but this thing just fits down inside there. It's hard to take the baby pin off if it's not in a C-stand. So, with my priorities being ease to light, ease to good light, and portability, you can see that this thing is just a dream come true. Albeit expensive, but a dream come true. And there we go. Now you can see what it looks like. It just fits right in there. I can close this case up and good to go. And again, the ballast and the power supply for it are hefty, but they fit in here. And I've got a lean and mean light kit. And then my Quasar tubes can fit down in here, the 2-foot ones. And I'm good to go. I'm dangerous. So, number one is that lack of that coefficient of friction to getting good light. I don't want to set up a whole bunch of stuff. And these umbrellas, and this one got stuck in the thing. Hang on. This isn't a reflection on the product. Where's my pliers? There we go. I've never had that happen before. So there's just this little wing nut thing that you put the umbrella down in and then you tighten it on. And I over tightened it by accident. But that goes in there, and then any umbrella can fit on there. And the nice thing is, when an umbrella folds up, it folds up much smaller than one of those light domes with a big Bowen speed ring on it. And then it fits in a bag, like so. And once it's in this bag, it's really, really durable. And yeah, if you bend it over your knee or if you pack it, the sideways on a stand or something like that, it may break, but I mean, the rods in there are pretty flexible and you can crush this. Like, you could stand on this if you want to, and it's not gonna break it. And so for me, being able to put this inside any stand case that I may have, where in this case I've got right now some light stands, mic boom, and my diffusion. In it like that is just so convenient. And when I'm looking at a bunch of my stuff where I'm shooting with small crews or even one-man band, being able to take one case that will hold my tripods, all of my diffusion, and any stands I may need to hold the light up, that's bonkers. That's crazy. This umbrella is not small enough to fit in the Pelican, but this one is. I just got this, and this is a diffusion that we're shining through instead of bouncing off of. It's just a Westcott, but they make other umbrellas with the same form factor. But yeah, this I can absolutely fold up and fit in this case with everything else, no problem. But to me, if I'm bringing a tripod anyway, bringing the bigger umbrella is not a problem. And if I'm bringing my big stand case, so this is like my travel one, this slightly taller one makes the difference, where then I have, see, this is what I was talking about, all the other lights that came with it, or all the other umbrellas that came with it. I have 3 other umbrellas, and these are, well, let me show you one. This is a white and black umbrella. This is a soft silver umbrella, and this is going to be diffusion? Yeah, white diffusion. Let me do white and black. So this little monstrosity here, again, folds up super tiny, but turns my little pail of a light, that little tiny bucket of a light, into, hang on. I don't know if you can see, if you can truly appreciate how big this, I mean, it won't even fit in my basement, but this is a 7-foot umbrella. This is a massive, massive umbrella. And to be able to bounce that Hudson Spyder and bend it so it hits how I wanted it to hit in here, this has been such an amazing thing where, again, with the tiniest footprint, I can have a massive light source, a 7-foot soft white bounced light source. That's just crazy. You can't get that with a single source light. You'd need to diffuse it and bounce it off so many other things first. It just wouldn't be worth it. And so the other option here, so what we've talked about is we've got this Hudson Spyder Mozu, we've got these tube lights, and I don't like the single source lights. But there's a missing category that I haven't really talked about. I mentioned it, but like the RE Sky panels and the Roto lights and the Dracast soft, like it's like a disc, a hard plastic disc that's a big soft light source. And I've used them a couple times. And by the way, the thing I did not discuss is like a flat LED panel. And I just hate those. Like all the individual LEDs, I feel like make really weird shadows and unnatural. I don't care for them. So we're not talking about those. But like these softer source lights, why can't I think of what they're called? Dracast had like something like Silver Silk or something like that. Silk Ray, maybe Silk Ray? I don't know. But these soft light sources would be good, except they have a huge form factor to travel with because they don't fold up. You can't fit them in a Pelican like this. Like, they need a bigger, taller, deeper, especially if you're gonna have a few of them. Like, they're just massive in 2 dimensions. Even if they're thin, they're massive in 2 dimensions, which makes them harder to ship and travel with. But then also, they're limited to the size that they can be. Where with this Hudson Spyder, yes, it's 3 times the cost of one of those things, but it packs up into like a Mac Pro trash can, and it folds out into a 7-foot soft source light. Like, that's crazy. That's worth it to me. Aperture Nova is, yeah, Aperture Nova is great, but again, big case, and the source is only yay big. And so the amount of work, with my priorities being the amount of work to get good light, which the Nova would get as a big soft source, is fine, but the portability as the second one, it's a huge, heavy light. And so you end up in a spot where you need a massive case for it. You need beefy stands to be able to hold it up. It just I mean, it's like a Kino Celeb or something like that. Like, yeah, it's a great soft light, but it has no portability whatsoever. And if you're trying to fly or go anywhere, to take one light is its own case, or you're getting a roller bag to fit everything else. How heavy is the Spyder? I guess I could have weighed it, or I mean, I could look online, but I'll show it. Like, it's not crazy heavy. I've been having it on an impact light stand. I was putting it on C-stands a lot at first, but I realized like I'm not moving it around too much. Yes, you can put it on a small light stand. I don't think I would put it on a small light stand with maybe a huge umbrella sticking off of it, but maybe I would. Let's do it. It's a live stream. Let me get my dinkiest light stand and see how this feels. Oh yeah, hi cutie. This one isn't gonna work. How about this one? This is a Cowboy Studio light stand. This thing was one of the first things that I added to my kit years ago. It does not slide well, does not feel good, but we'll raise it up here. I'm gonna put way too big of a grip head on it. Probably gonna just pinch the metal like that and ruin it with that grip head alone. And where did my baby pin go? I want my baby pin, baby pin. So the baby pin screws in, and what I showed a second ago is like this is the thing that holds an umbrella on that inside one, and the other option they have, and I didn't think this would be useful, they have this big red knob. The grip head is metal, if that's what you mean. Everything on this is metal, absolutely everything. But this is just a big like aluminum ball, which it's like I don't know why I would want this, but it screws into the same spot the umbrella one would screw in. And I'll show you why I end up liking that, and it's for 2 reasons. But so now I've got this in here, and I can hold this thing, open these things up, and there we go. Hudson Spyder on a really cheap light stand. So yeah, it's holding it. I mean, I don't love it, but in a pinch, I think it'd be fine. This is what I was saying. Like, I don't know that I would want to put to hang the weight out any further than right over the center of it, just because the base of this stand is not that wide, and so we're getting into a center of gravity issue where we're getting beyond the legs of the stand. But like, I wouldn't even want to put sandbags on this thing. But yeah, in a pinch, this could absolutely light something traveling with just this little itty bitty stand, this little itty bitty cute old light stand. But so this little knuckle here, if you're adjusting the light without an umbrella on it, being able to hold this firmly and make all your adjustments, especially if you're using a C-stand, like loosening it and trying to hold it can be a little awkward, but having this knob helps amazingly. And my buddy Ronald was helping Jay and I, not helping us, Ronald was shooting it. Helping's not the right word. Ronald, Jay, and I were working a gig together at the Symphony, and we had to walk through like through the auditorium, Powell Symphony Hall, and light the people. Like we were doing this moving gimbal shot of they were walking to the camera and talking as we like led ourselves down to the stage. And it was just too dark. And so we put this on like an Avenger boom, and Ronald held it up overhead. And as we walked, it lit everything. And we were able to, I swear I'm not trying to sell you one of these, but let me get the ballast here. So this is the unit for the brightness and all that sort of stuff, the ballast to control it. This is the brightness, and it's a bicolor LED. But on it is, you can get it with V-mount or gold mount batteries. But so I can put one of these V-mounts on here, and I've got power, and I've tested it. One of these can run at full power for 56 minutes, I think was my test. And so we used this where Ronald just had this, he was holding this on the back of the boom and ran the cable to the back of the light and then walked with it. And it was super convenient that we had this soft source. We didn't need an umbrella. We didn't need anything else. We didn't need a big lantern. We just had this pointing at the people as he walked backwards behind me, as I walked backwards, and we had a great shot. And I cannot think of a light that would have worked as well as this did in that situation. So I'm a huge fan of this thing, and I know, again, it's expensive, but for what I do, with my priorities being ease to good light, least amount of steps to having good light hit a subject, portability, and then brightness and budget, yeah, it's not the brightest light compared to the 300-watt monsters out there, and no, it is absolutely not a cheap light. But it fits my two first priorities absolutely perfectly. So having owned these lights, I guess sort of in summary, having owned a lot of these lights, I didn't like the single source lights because I kept having to do so much work to get it to a spot where it was useful to me. And then starting to use these quasar lights, they're just smooth, soft lights. And when you have a light like this one, and let me kill that overhead light again. We'll keep the mosey off. So as I'm up close to it, it's pretty harsh. But once I back up, with no fill over here, I mean, there's just darkness over here, so this side of my face is going to be a little rough. But already, this is a pretty soft look. And if I put one sheet of diffusion in between me, it's a really, really soft light that works well. And so especially as a fill light, I love these things, and they're bright. And these I can start to get almost as bright as the Hudson Spyder. But yeah, this is the Quasar Double Rainbow. And with that and these, if I set them all to white, I've got a bunch of light that we can arrange in ways that make it soft, because these are wide sources. They're soft sources instead of those single sources. And if you don't want to spend if you don't want to spend $4,000 on a Hudson Spyder Mosey, and I think each of these Quasars, this one I think is around $500, but it's not available anymore. It's Big Brother, not Big Brother, it's the same size, but the Rainbow 2 is out. And the Rainbow 2 I think starts at like $750, and this started at $500. But the Rainbow 2 is a little brighter and has some other features to it and wireless connectivity. But each of the other two lights were around $900 each. But on the super cheap side of things, Quasar also makes these. This is a T8 size light, and it has just this little adapter. I'm going to plug it into my power strip down here. And this little light is perfect non-flickering LED light, daylight balanced. And I made a whole video about these because I own 4 of them. And these are $45. $45. And this is with one. I mean, I'm primarily being lit by just this right now. One light. And for four, you get four of them and you're still looking at, what, $180? 45 times four? Does that add up? Quickly, you can have three of these on one side and one on the other side, and you've got a great key light and fill light setup that is just $45 LED lights that aren't flickering. And so if you're on a budget, these things are fantastic. And for less than $200, you can get four of these and buy a $20 diffusion panel off Amazon or something, like one of those Neewer 5-in-1, whatever. Shine these through that. You have an amazing light source for less than $200 compared to if you get an Aputure 300D, you're spending $1,000 for the light or $1,200, and then you need another $250 for a custom softbox on top of it. So if you're going budget conscious, if budget is one of your main priorities, some LED tube lights and a little bit of diffusion can go such a long way to giving you really, really good light without breaking the bank at all. And these aren't like, this isn't like when you go to Home Depot and get like shop lamps and put fluorescent bulbs in them or whatever and put it through a shower curtain. Like, this is a cinema light. This is like a high CRI, daylight balanced cinema light. Like, you can use this in Hollywood. They do. So if you're looking to save some money and still have amazing light, most of everything that's hitting my face right now is from this single $45 Quasar T8 little tube light here. So these other ones are T12 size. They're a little bit thicker. And they also make these as bicolor, where you can just, there's like a little manual dial that you can rotate. And I think those start at like 120 bucks or something like that. So if you don't want to be stuck in just daylight or tungsten, you can adjust them. But yeah, these Quasar tubes have made my life as a producer a lot easier, just because they're cheap and they don't require a ton of diffusion and stands to be a usable light source. And the space between, and I guess this is the other thing that I maybe didn't articulate well, the space that you need between the light and your subject to be good is not a lot. And so again, when you're shooting in somebody's office or conference room, or if you've got a YouTube studio and you're in a room in your house trying to make this work, to have an Aputure, a Godox, you know, whatever, single source light with 3 feet of a softbox sticking off the front of it, just to have a light that's going to look decent on your face, that you've got to have space behind you. You've got to have a big room, because you're going to have to be far enough away from where that light is for it to look decent when it hits you, and to have room for this giant softbox. But one of these, you can put 2 of these on either side of your desk and you'll have the best looking Zoom video chat light you could imagine, for $45 on each side. So I highly recommend these if you're just getting started. And these you can also plug into any dimmer. Like, you can literally just plug it into like a dimmer for a floor lamp. And throughout the dimming, they also will not flicker with any of your footage. So incredibly versatile for $45. If you're building a light kit, I don't think you'll regret adding a few of these for less than the cost of a softbox. They'll go quite a long way for you. But my buddy Ronald asked me the other day about buying lights and what my strategy is, and why I buy the gear that I buy. And it made me think quite a bit about what matters to me, and why I own the lights that I own, and why I've sold the lights that I've sold. And for me, that's when I came down to these 4 priorities in that order, once I stopped to think about it, of I don't need a crazy bright light for most of the work that I do. I don't need a light that can emulate the sun or be crazy artistic or anything like that for most of the work that I do. And for me, I'm buying these lights that are lasting years and years and years. And so, yeah, $4,000 is excessive for me, for a Hudson Spyder Mosey. I get that. But I've also been able to rent it a little bit and start to earn some of that back. And the time that it has saved me, and looking at my footage, the footage just looks gorgeous. Like, you can tell, it can turn an iPhone video, as it did earlier, into a beautiful looking thing with how good this light looks. And so my portfolio is getting better. The shots that I'm getting, yes, it's faster, but also my shots are looking better than they were before. And I have more flexibility in different situations than I did before I had this light. And so I'm leveling up, and I'm working with bigger and different clients because my stuff's getting better, because my gear's getting better, and it's allowing me to do more. And I'm not saying that you need good gear to do anything. Like I would make the argument, like, yeah, you could get a shop light from Home Depot, shine it through a shower curtain. You can do some damage. You can make some good looking stuff. But with DIY solutions like that, you end up having to spend a lot more time getting it to look good, and you may deal with whatever issues from flickering, or things that you're going to have to test and find in different situations, or things interact differently with that. You plug something in, and if a generator turns on the other side of a building, you end up with your light doing weird things. I know that these lights are reliable, and these massive ballasts will balance out any weird current that's coming through the house, and I'm going to have a light that I can rely on, where with myself and with a small crew, we're not spending time troubleshooting, like, hey, is there flicker from this light? Hey, is this not quite balanced how we would expect it? Like, hey, is this color shifted since it's been on for 20 minutes? It's excessive with its cost, but it put me in a spot where I can rely on it. I guess that's like reliability, and I don't mean its build quality and how long it will last. I mean, can I flip a switch and walk away and trust that this light is going to stay the same brightness, not flicker, and give me a gorgeous light on my subject without me having to think about it? And I guess that's my strategy with all my gear. And I'm going to make another video and talk more about 32-bit float audio on another day. But that's sort of the same thing of, like, I want a recorder that I don't have to stress out about and wonder, is this still recording? Has my subject started talking louder? Now I've got to go feather this or hire an audio mixer for this one seated interview, just because somebody has a dynamic performance to the volume of their voice during the interview. For me, having reliable gear, not with its build quality, but gear that I can trust to do its job, and like the autofocus on the Sony a7S III that I use, knowing that I can, if I'm conducting an interview fully by myself, I can set that camera up, I can step to the side, and I'll keep a monitor facing me so that I know if it shuts off or something like that, but knowing that it's not going to lose focus on the subject, and if they lean in and out, like the facial recognition is going to keep it absolutely locked on, that gives me such peace of mind and lets me focus on other things. And when you get to focus on other things, that's when you grow. And I think if you're just starting out and you're starting to build your kit, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, as all of us did and all of us continue to do. But I guess the fun of video production is the mistakes that you make are going to become more adventurous, hopefully. And you'll still make dumb mistakes throughout your life. I recorded way too much footage the other day at 60 frames per second because I just forgot to check the setting. But as I'm filming these things, I just got to film this awesome project. We're almost done with it, but we were dancing. We had a dancer in this giant indoor greenhouse at the Missouri Botanical Gardens, the Climatron. And it was this guy in a giraffe costume dancing through a jungle from the book Giraffes Can't Dance with the Symphony. And the stuff that we were doing, I had my Sony a7S III on the Ronin RS2, R2, I don't know. Ronin RS2, final answer. And with this, I was able to film all this dancing knowing that it's in focus. And to me, that's absolutely crazy. Yeah, Dane, been trying to build the perfect kit for 12 years, still haven't found it. I would say I started my company 13 years ago in December. I had like the worst video gear when I started, and then it was like 7 years later that I bought a Canon 5D Mark II and started using that instead of the mini DV tapes we were using. And so it was really only in like 2013 that I started getting serious. So I've only really been building my kit for like 8 or 9 years. and in that, I've spent a lot of money learning these lessons the hard way. But my point with these lessons are, once you start having both gear that you can rely on to do what you expected to do, and crew that you can trust to do their job really well, that's when you get to start trying things. And when you get to start trying things, that's when you grow, that's when your capabilities change, and that's when you can start finding new clients in new industries, because you're creating stuff that's exciting, and you're gonna stop looking like you looked last week and the week before and the week before that, and you'll constantly be in this growth cycle, which is an exciting thing. But for me, a lot of that comes down to trust and being able to trust your gear and your crew. And so, yeah, $4,000 is crazy to spend on a single light, but I know that because of this light, I've saved hours of setup time. I've saved headaches from having to find power, because I know I can power this thing for more than an hour off 2 batteries silently with no heat coming off of it. Like, that's awesome. And I know that my footage is changing because of that. My interviews look better because of that, and they can look better in more situations because of that, and that has some serious value to me. And I don't think it's a stretch to imagine that some of my newer clients are my clients because of the stuff I've shot in the past 2 years. And the stuff that I've shot in the past 2 years is a lot better than the stuff I shot the 2 years before that, and way better than the stuff I shot the 2 years before that. And I'm excited to see the stuff that I'm going to shoot 2 years from now. And it's all just a part of the process, and why I love video production and a skill-based creative job like this. And so I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you've got any other questions about any of the lights I use and the lessons I've learned from these lights in particular, feel free to ask them now or throw them in the comments later. And I check the comments for everything. As long as they're nice comments, I'll respond to them. If they're not nice, I delete them. But yeah, this is my kit and how I've come to enjoy it. And again, I'm excited to see where I go from here. And being in this creative industry where you continue to grow and iterate and learn. And for me, my favorite part is not only growing and iterating and learning, but meeting new people and learning new ways to do things. And so if you've got anything you're doing with lights, or any lights that you're using that you just love and think that they're fantastic, throw that in the comments, because I would love to know what those things are. I would love to try them myself. I just sold a bunch of gear to Adorama, and I've got credits that I need to spend on more gear. So yeah, keep up the hustle. Love the gear live streams. Thanks, dude. These are fun. And seeing that we, wow, maintained an audience of 8 right now. That's unprecedented for a Tuesday night stream. Thank you all for joining. If you have any thoughts about stuff you want to see in the next streams, please don't hesitate to throw it in the comments. This week was all about lights, but I've got plenty more gear that I'd be happy to talk about. Coming up, I have some microphones that were sent to me from Acacia microphones. That are some different length shotgun microphones, and I'm looking for some ways to test that and compare them to see if I've been using the wrong microphones all along. So stay tuned for that, and if you're a location sound mixer, be gentle. Be gentle with your response. I'm just some dude trying to do my best. That's all I got. Thank you all so much for joining. I appreciate it very much. If you're watching this later in a replay, thank you so much for making it this far. I appreciate it. It might have been a bit boring in the beginning, especially when no one was here, because it was for me a little bit. That's all. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, night, whatever, wherever. See you later. Bye. Now with these live streams,